Alright, folks. Are you ready to begin? I think so. Sounds like a plan. I'm up for this. It's gonna be good. Although according to my scoreboard, it's Empire.Kas versus Empire.Kas, which, as it turns out, is not correct. Not really sure what happened there. Jeez. Okay. Everything is set up, and wonders are about to commence. Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to welcome you to this show match series, sponsored privately by Reverend Pinky of Team Revoki. My name is TotalBiscuit, bringing you Empire.Kas. He is in the red trunks, and he is playing Terran to the northeast of this, the Shakuras Plateau, versus his opponent, Thermaltake Esports WhiteRa. He is in the blue trunks, and he is playing Protoss to the northwest. If I recall correctly, these guys actually played a show match against each other yesterday. They just continuously play each other. I'm okay with that. I think that's pretty cool. Nothing wrong with that. WhiteRa was starting with a pylon very close to his nexus here. It's like he's going to build his entire base in this very small area. It's a compact base. It actually comes flat-packed, direct from IKEA. WhiteRa imports it from Sweden. And then he keeps it in his castle, which I might add is filled with tigers. We've confirmed this with him. We asked as to whether or not he possessed any tigers. He possesses 4 tigers and a single giraffe. Turns out, the giraffe isn't housebroken yet, so it's causing him a few issues, but that's just the life of a Ukrainian StarCraft 2 superstar right there for you folks. Castle of the Barracks coming down at the appropriate time. Nothing unusual or fancy. It's actually being played over $200. It's going to be the amount of money available for this. As I said, it is privately sponsored there by Reverend Pinky. Team Revoki is apparently going to be trying to provide several high-quality show matches over the course of 2012, so do keep an eye on TeamLiquid.net to find out about that. WhiteRa is going to have a little bit of Team Pokey going on here, and we'd love to try and get that SCV, but that's not going to happen. What he would also like to do, though, is just harass, and irritate, and annoy, and you know what? He's doing a fantastic job of that, forcing several SCVs to be pulled off the line. Bit of a problem there for Empire.Kas, but the probe remains alive as well, which is a fairly impressive little feat. Dodging, weaving, dipping, dodging. He would, a mineral trick to sneak his way through there, forcing more SCVs to be pulled off the line, and that's nice. You know, that's a nice little bit of harassment there by WhiteRa, who is aware that he doesn't really have to do much in the first couple of minutes of the game, so he can focus on doing just that. Now, Kas going for the 1-Rax gasless expand. Kas is very much an economic player. Some people get the wrong idea when they hear the Destroyer about Kas. They think, oh, he's an aggressive rush player. No, he isn't. He's a straight-up macro player who is basically unstoppable past around the 15-minute mark. That's what he's very, very good at. Early aggression is not really his style, but he can turn it on when necessary. WhiteRa with the expansion as well. 1-gate expand here. He knows Kas very well. They play very often, so he knows exactly what he's doing against him. He also knows that his opponent tends to favor the early expand, and any kind of aggression that comes out from him will be fairly light if it happens at all. Most likely he will play a defensive posture, which is what's happening here. 2 probes and a zealot coming out from WhiteRa to have a little bit of a poke. However, they're going to be going up against a couple of marines, and a 3rd marine there, so I'm not sure WhiteRa really wants to go for this, but he's going to try and do some damage anyway. Kas nicely pulling an SCV off the line, but one SCV does go down, and trading a probe and a zealot for a single SCV I don't feel was really worthwhile. Kas holds that quite nicely. In the meantime, the expansion has been scouted by Kas. Second gas now being taken by WhiteRa. I like the fact that WhiteRa tends to go for the really early expands and doesn't actually go for the double gas into that either. He doesn't really seem to rely too much on sentries, but I think it's just because he knows Kas really well, and he knows that Kas isn't going to be getting aggressive anytime what? Okay, Empire.Kas. Well, I thought this show match might result in some rather odd things going on, but that is one of the oddest things I've seen in a while. A proxy command center down to the bottom here. Question is, what is it for? Is it going to be for a hidden expansion down here, or is it going to be some kind of ridiculous planetary fortress play? Well, no sign of the engineering bay yet, so if it was going to be a planetary fortress, and which seems very unlikely, I've got to say. I have a feeling that's just a hidden expansion. He's probably going to hop it down here and put it out of the way. That'll be a nice place to hide it. Certainly get an early economic lead over WhiteRa. Bear in mind that this is a show match, so we could see some rather odd tactics from both of these fellows. I would certainly not blame them, and quite frankly, I think a lot of people are looking forward to that. WhiteRa now with the 3 gates up. Pretty standard in terms of the number of gates you want for defense at this stage of the game. Especially with the amount of gas he's got. Not rushing his warp gate tech or anything like that. CC is now finished, and there's the lifter, and that is exactly where it's going to be hidden. And it's a good place to put it, honestly. Even holding onto the Selnaga watchtower is not enough. You will not see all the way up there. You have to, of course, be careful not to place any buildings out of the way, where it's like, hang on a second, why is there an SCV here? But you get the idea, even lifting up that SCV as well. Now, some 3-stalker poking aggression as Kas builds nothing but Marines for the time being. Going for stim on 3 racks and also grabbing his factory. 3-stalkers will be able to poke a little bit, but they can't really do much. That's an easy repair job, and there we go, their hidden command center down to the bottom here. However, one must be cautious. If WhiteRa is able to spot that, he'll be able to easily access it with the use of Blinkstalker, which he's going to have access to very shortly once the Twilight Council goes up. Considering he's got 4 stalkers on the field already, it seems likely that he'll go for Blinkstalker. I mean, Blinkstalker is a very popular decision on this map, particularly because of this area here. He can hop into the back, and he's got an observer coming out, but he's going to go straight for Templar. What makes things very intriguing indeed. Engineering bay now coming down for Kas, and there's the reactor going down for a swap over. It's going to be a Marine and Medevac for the time being from him, which is going to be shut down very hard if he decides to go for Storm. There's only a single Marauder in the mix at the moment, second one being added in, and Kas's economy streaming ahead here. 4 mules are deployed at this point. 43 SCVs, less than WhiteRa, but that's also to be expected. Warp Prism coming in right here for WhiteRa. Could be looking for some Storm drops or perhaps some Archon nonsense, but yeah, looks like it may very well be a bit of Storm dropping action at some point in the not too distant future. WhiteRa, on the other hand, easily able to stay passive for the moment. Have a look at WhiteRa's vision. You'll notice that he doesn't really see a damn thing up here. Has no idea of what's going on. The infamous scouting factory on its way. Observer will track that and see what's going on. And of course, the problem being that it's going to be difficult to deal with that. WhiteRa wants to try and avoid it as much as possible. He's got the observer shadowing it. It's going on the vector that it might end up detecting it, but WhiteRa knows about it, so he's going to dodge around. He doesn't want this to be spotted. This will not be a storm drop. It's just going to be pure zealot, and almost looked like he was going to head in the direction of that expansion there, but that hasn't happened. Of course, he doesn't really have any way of knowing about it. He can perhaps suspect, but Mass Marine with primarily Marine, a couple of Marauders in the mix as well, but it's going to have to deal with the fact that there's going to be a Zealot drop right into the back of the base, which may force Kas to pull back. Doesn't actually have any defenses in his base in order to deal with this, so there's going to be some fairly serious damage coming in. Here we go, 4 Zealots directly into the mineral line, which is where they are best utilized. Will Kas pull back, or will he continue with the offensive? Significant damage being done, and Kas actually using those SCVs to block the Zealots in as the Marines stim and try to deal with them. Nicely defended, actually, by Kas. Very effective there. Could warp in a second round if he so desires. 11 workers killed so far, and in the meantime, here comes the aggression and a big storm onto the top of Kas's forces. A lot of damage done there, and still enough energy for more storms as well, and Kas has decided, you know what, this is a bad idea, and here we go. Yet more Zealots being warped into that mineral line. Plenty of damage being done as he's herded out of the way, and WhiteRa says absolutely not. Half of that force split into pieces, and the rest of it dropped directly into the base. Is there any storm energy left? There is enough for one more by the looks of it. In the meantime, the Zealot drop has now finally been cleaned up, but it did a lot of damage in the process, taking Kas down to 36 SCVs. The hidden base, however, might be enough in order to keep him alive, and WhiteRa didn't really take too much damage there at all, only losing a single probe versus 26 workers of his opponent. Nice bit of storm defense in combination with the Warp Prism Zealot drop. Certainly did the job there. The Warp Prism does remain alive as well and can live to fight another day. Very, very nice indeed. Kas using SCVs 3 at a time, trying to catch up in terms of his economy there, having taken a bit of a beating. That said, WhiteRa is going to need to take a base fairly shortly. Kas has had the lead in that respect for quite some time, and Kas can very easily re-expand. By re-expand, of course, I mean the size of his army as opposed to anything else. WhiteRa now at a reasonable number, and is transitioning through to... Does he have charge? He does. It's going to be Zealot Archon here. Still got 4 High Templar on the field, however. Potential damage. Yeah, now, there's the Observer. I'd love to know where that Warp Prism went. It's to be hidden away. Looking around the map to see if I can find it. I cannot. There it is. Ah, this is a bit of trademark WhiteRa right here. He uses this to protect the High Templar, make sure they don't get EMP'd, make sure they don't get sniped, and then he'll drop the High Templar and immediately storm. May decide to actually do a little bit of harassment drop. Oh, it's sick! It's huge! It's all of those other generic terms that every caster seems to use. Wow! Big damage on another one right there. The damage is done, but can WhiteRa actually break through? More to the point. He deals some colossal damage to his opponent, but unfortunately, he didn't have enough Immortals. He didn't have the firepower at the front there to break his way through. The Warp Prism is now down. And while that was certainly a special tactic, it didn't really do all that much to Empire.Kas. That's a number of workers killed. A double expand coming in from WhiteRa here, getting nice and greedy. And he needs to, honestly. He still doesn't know about that hidden base. He must be suspecting it now, considering the size of his opponent's forces. But a double expand is certainly the way to go. Another Warp Prism coming in, and Kas forced back into his base, but amassing a rather large Bio Ball. It's looking nasty. 5 Ghosts now on the field as well, so... that big ball of doom from WhiteRa might not be as effective as he would hope. The Scouting Factory continues to live, surprisingly, and the Bio Ball now rolling out for Carson. Question is he going to go and try and secure a 4th here, or will he just go and try and barrel down the center? He's getting very suspicious. Warp Prisms, Airplay, and more to the point, Dark Templar. So Missile Turret going down at the front there to prevent that from happening. Ball in the center is growing larger and larger. More Templar in this Warp Prism here. WhiteRa's going to try and do the same thing again. It did a lot of damage, certainly, and it's drained the Medevac energy down to almost nothing, but I don't know if the investment was necessarily worth it. More Zealots now being warped in at the bottom pylon, taking WhiteRa up to a fairly large count, as you can see. Unfortunately, he just ended up running right into that. Needs to be careful not to lose that. Storms coming in right here, and the storms are large. Plenty of damage done to that massive ball. The question is, does WhiteRa actually have enough forces? I think the solid answer is damn right he does. Oh my, oh my. The Ghost's absolutely crushed. No EMP available, and Kas's front line getting completely overrun here. WhiteRa smashing his way through once again. The Archon's now at the front. However, Kas is in a standing position. The last thing you want is a Bio Ball in the corner fighting for its life, because that tends to happen. Huge damage being inflicted by the remaining forces of Empire.Kas with the +2/+1 upgrade, and Kas holds for the time being. The majority of his army was crushed there, but so was WhiteRa's. However, WhiteRa's not one to give up easily, and he's got more units on the way. 9 High Templar currently on the field. Can start warping right there, looking perhaps for more storm dropping, and still WhiteRa doesn't have a clue about that base down at the bottom there. But he's on a solid 4 bases, and Kas really isn't able to do a huge amount. Another storm goes down, Kas taking a little bit of damage. Storm is certainly causing attrition to Kas's forces, not outright killing them, however. WhiteRa warping in yet another set of units, and that... How many gateways is WhiteRa actually sitting on at this point? That's a lot of gateways. As it turns out, that is actually 10. Yes, indeed. I think Kas is a bit delusional if he thinks he's going to get that base. WhiteRa denying that completely. Yeah, 10 gateways. Still plenty of storm. He's got 7 High Templar. Warp Prism is still around here somewhere. And Empire.Kas now with a drop. It's going to get intercepted. Unfortunately, is the Archon going to be enough to bring that one down? No, it is not. And Empire.Kas is able to ferry his forces back, and this could be a lethal sandwich, but WhiteRa has no intention of allowing that to happen. Down goes the feedback. Ghost crushed. Charged almost immediately. Splitting the forces down the center. In fact, WhiteRa springs the trap on Empire.Kas. Upgrade now complete for WhiteRa. He's looking really solid here. Down goes one Medevac, and another storm as the reinforcements get caught directly in that. Kas evacuating his forces back, and does WhiteRa have the numbers to break through this time? He may very well. Let's see if he can do it. EMP goes off and WhiteRa still not willing to commit. That drop was entirely denied, as we saw earlier, and a couple of medevacs are going to be shot out of the sky very early here. Now, unfortunately, WhiteRa caught back into a corner as Empire.Kas pushes him up against the planetary fortress, and WhiteRa fighting for his life, but he's getting flanked from all sides, and WhiteRa's army crushed effectively here by Empire.Kas. My concern being that WhiteRa's going to be able to reinforce that very quickly. Kas, on the other hand, has only just established his base, had to take a planetary fortress. Half of this has already been mined out, as you can see. Hasn't mined out his natural yet, though, having taken significant worker damage. 58 workers have been lost for Kas, and 1 has been lost for WhiteRa. Oh my, Empire.Kas actually producing Hellions into the main mineral line of WhiteRa. That was unexpected. I'm not sure why WhiteRa actually allowed him to do that, but you know what, he's doing it anyway, and finally some harassment here from Empire.Kas. Not the way that I would have expected it to happen, but hey, whatever works, right? So we'll be finally driven back. Some damage has certainly been done. WhiteRa remassing his forces in the center. Empire.Kas with the edge in terms of army supply here. His upgrade count is looking pretty good too, although WhiteRa is catching up quite rapidly. Now Empire.Kas able to saturate this mineral line with mules, and now mining from 3 bases. We can now use this base in order to launch some drop assaults on WhiteRa's base to the south here. There's very little defense to stop that from happening. A photon cannon is going up, but it's a little bit too late. No photon cannons for you, good sir, says Empire.Kas, and here he goes. Fortunately, no defenses available here, and significant economic damage being dealt to WhiteRa, and Kas finally starting to catch up here. And WhiteRa doesn't have blink, and I bet he wishes he does right about now. That was a full medevac that could have been easily shot down. However, no blink for WhiteRa means no medevac for you. As WhiteRa actually realized he still hasn't seen this base. This base has been hidden the entire game. Half of it's been mined out, the rest is oversaturated. Doesn't really matter though, because Empire.Kas does have this base established and is grabbing this one as well, so he's playing some good catch-up here, and another drop comes down. WhiteRa's going to lose his Stalker if he's not careful. Kas just laying down some pain on that mineral line. A couple of warpins come in, which is nowhere near enough, but will the medevac go down? And, oh, WhiteRa loses the opportunity to bring that one down as well, and now milling around the place, losing another observer in the middle, not exactly ideal. Mass Zealot. As we got the +3, there's the feedback going off at a single ghost here, but the EMP already detonated. Nice dodge there by Empire.Kas. Doesn't run into the High Templar. Empire.Kas engaging very well here. He's got the ghosts he needs. Another feedback goes off, but it's not enough. 2 more High Templar taken out, and Kas looking so powerful right now. He's been on the ropes for the majority of this game, but has finally managed to stabilize, and WhiteRa is in a bit of a pickle. Looking for +3 right here. This engagement is not going to go well for WhiteRa, I feel. Doesn't have any storm available whatsoever. He's relying entirely on Zealots, which is nowhere near enough. He doesn't have the AoE that he actually needs to crush this unless he gets a really great surround with those Zealots. And Empire.Kas with great stutter step, keeping the majority of those units alive. The ghosts do go down, and both sides take significant losses. WhiteRa just throwing away minerals right here, whereas a lot of gas going down for Empire.Kas. However, Empire.Kas holds once again, another army annihilated for WhiteRa. In the meantime, another drop here, and Empire.Kas continues to launch harassment at its opponent. Empire.Kas with the economic advantage, I feel, at this point. Simply due to the fact that he's got quite a few mules going, a lot of orbital commands. Into the mineral line goes WhiteRa, and he's going to slice and dice a couple of mules. Really a worthwhile little engagement, and I don't think there's any way you're getting out of there, I'm afraid. Zealots do not have blink, and unfortunately they can't jump off that very, very small cliff face. In the meantime, what do we see but yet more drop harassment, and Empire.Kas gets away with half of that force as well, and Empire.Kas is doing an exceptionally good job of keeping his units alive at this point. He's playing very efficiently indeed, and WhiteRa is actually now significantly trailing in terms of his supply count. Another Warp Prism coming in, looking for more harassment. However, Warp Prism isn't really going to do much here. Planetary Fortress will shut that down very easily. Could go into the main, start picking off tech structures, but I don't feel he's got the damage in order to do that. And Empire.Kas has endured, and my lord, he's about to bring the pain. But there are 14 High Templar on the field, which is an unusually large number. Most of these are going to be created into Archons by looks of it. 4 High Templar in a Warp Prism as well to try and respond to this. A massive Doom drop coming down onto the 4th, and this is the time when WhiteRa must respond and must respond adequately. And I don't know if he's got the army to do it. He's certainly got the AoE, Templar and Archons. It's what I would call AoE in a nutshell, and only 5 salvos is what it takes to melt the Nexus. 2 storms coming down, the damage is massive. Is it gonna be enough? It very well might be. Oh my god, WhiteRa devastates the army. Half of that army destroyed, the rest is able to evacuate with massive storms raining down from on high. WhiteRa holds once again. It loses that base, however, and is now only mining from a single base. WhiteRa needs to consider an expansion here. A lot of Archons, and you know what I'd like to see from WhiteRa, actually, is a transition through to Colossus at this point, because his opponent has no Vikings whatsoever and is almost maxed. It would be a perfect time to actually go for Archon Colossus with the Zealot front screen there, but WhiteRa's going to push forward with the force that he's got. Army's not particularly large, but it is a bunch of very high-value units. There goes the EMP, and oh, do we get any storms? Yes, we do. Not as many as WhiteRa would have liked, however, and those Archons are just now bleeding off against Empire.Kas' army. Big Warpin comes in. Will it be enough? Another storm off to the side, targeted on the Ghosts. Definitely not enough, though, and Empire.Kas crushes that again. Some excellent endurance play here by Kas, and WhiteRa's army just got annihilated. WhiteRa falls below 75 supply, and Kas endures once again. He lives through all of it, and Dark Templar transition coming in from WhiteRa. Looking to try and catch his opponent off guard here. WhiteRa's not out yet, but he is in a bit of trouble. Expansion almost complete once again, so he can get back to mining this, but he's starting to oversaturate this area, and if we have a look at the income, you can see that Kas does have a significant advantage in that respect. Just not moving down to the bottom, and this force of Marine Marauder Medevac Ghost is working out well for him. Zealot into the mineral line, and you can see 68 workers killed total for WhiteRa, but it's not been enough to hold Empire.Kas back. Empire.Kas is now almost 100 supply ahead of WhiteRa. It's been such an awesome first game thus far. I'm looking forward to the rest of the series. Kas now securing the 5th at the front here, and unfortunately WhiteRa doesn't have the resources to actually defend a front base. That's why he's looking for Dark Templar to really do this damage. Uh-oh, needs to really be careful where he puts that. Ooh, a nice little sneaky position, unfortunately. Kas is actually all the way over there. Single High Templar just left there in position, and 2 more on the way could very easily storm this mineral line. That's most likely what he's going to try and do here. There we go. Big storms coming down to the Warpin as well. Oh, the entire mineral line, save for 2 very, very fortunate SCVs, and a Warpin of Dark Templar here as well, but defensive storm goes down, and a couple of DTs in the mix slice their way through those Ghosts. He's going to need a scan. The EMP goes down to eliminate one of them. Still 2 at the back. Another EMP to crush the rest. While the Dark Templar work their way through this, there's a massive army coming down on the main of WhiteRa, and I don't think he's got anything that he can really use to stop this. Big Zealot Warping, nowhere near enough. I think he's just trying to delay here. A couple of storms going down and snipes off the High Templar, and big damage has been inflicted, but those Zealots are just ineffective. That DT is having a field day right here, taking out Ghost after Ghost after Ghost. Never say die unless, of course, you have your head sliced off by a, whatever the balls they use, a phase blade or whatever it is. Oh, and that orbital command will fall. Unfortunately, WhiteRa's still in a horrible spot. Another scan goes down, and here goes the tech. A mass warping of Zealots to try and defend against it. There's nowhere near enough Zealots, and they're in a funneled area. There go the snipes. The Zealots don't even reach Empire.Kas' forces. And there's the GG, ladies and gentlemen. The first game in this best of 7. The 32 minutes going to Empire.Kas, and what an impressive display from both of these guys. Oh yes, that's what I'm talking about. That's some good Starcraft action for you. What a way to kick this off. Some excellent creative play there by WhiteRa. Plenty of storm dropping, some amazing size storms, hitting so well. Unfortunately, not quite enough to deal with the war machine of Empire.Kas, the relentless assault that Kas was able to put on there. WhiteRa not able to solidify it. I do feel that a transition through to Colossus would have benefited him more there. I think he could have very easily done a significant amount of damage there if he'd just gone for a more traditional Colossus death ball. However, it didn't happen. Relying on Archon and Storm, and Storm is absolutely fantastic for withering down a force, but if you're looking for kills, well, you gotta be looking to Colossus. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is TotalBiscuit. We are watching this show match sponsored by Reverend Pinky of Team Revoki. We'll be right back very shortly with Game 2. Don't go anywhere.